and salam UiTM di hatiku. My name is Runjana binti Nur Azman, Social Media Management, School of Information Science, College of Computing, Informatics and Media, and I will be your MC for today. Thank you to Allah for gathering us for today's program, which is sharing session for collaborative teaching, digital asset and media management. I would like to welcome our special guest speaker, Dr. Ida Fajar Priyanto, as well as our beloved lecturer, Dr. Haslinda and friends. As we delve into the world of social media management, today's class promises to be an entertaining and instructive experience. Before we proceed with the program, I would like to call upon Muhammad Afiq Iman bin Muhammad Zarif for a doa recital.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, sesungguhnya kami berhimpun pada hari ini bagi menyatakan kesyukuran di atas kurniaan-Mu yang tidak ternilai. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang sentiasa bersyukur, sama ada nikmat yang sedikit, lebih-lebih lagi nikmat yang melimpah ruah kepada kami. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Rahim, Engkau berkatilah majlis kami pada hari ini. Sesungguhnya Engkau Maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini ini menimba ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan ilmu pengetahuan kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Kau redai. Justru berkati dan rahmatilah perhimpunan kami hari ini. Kurniakanlah kepada kami apa kiranya ilmu-Mu, sinarilah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya dan hidayah-Mu. Semoga dengannya kami mudah menerima dan menghayati serta mengamalkannya. Ya Zal Jalali wal Ikram, kurniakanlah kepada kami apa jua kesihatan anggota, kecergasan minda, ketenangan jiwa, kekuatan semangat. Semoga dengannya kami mampu mendepani cabaran, berdaya saing dan mampu mengangkat martabat diri, keluarga, masyarakat dan negara. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Wassallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi washabbihi wasallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Amin.
Thank you, Muhammad Afiq Iman, for the beautiful prayer. Dear participants, before I call upon our guest speaker, let me introduce a little bit about his academic background and work experience. Dr. Ida Fajar Priyanto is an experienced professional in the field of information science. Dr. Ida holds a PhD in information science from the prestigious University of North Texas, USA. Prior to that, he completed his master's in information science from Loughborough University of Technology, UK. He also holds a doctoral degree in English literature from Gadjah Mada University, Indonesia. Currently, Dr. Ida has been serving as a senior lecturer at the Graduate School of Library and Information Management at Gadjah Mada University since 2003. He has also held key positions such as Director of Gadjah Mada University Library from 2002 to 2012 and Head of Department at the Graduate School of Library and Information Management from 2003 to 2008. Additionally, he served as the Secretary of the Diploma in Library and Information Management Program at Gadjah Mada University from 1998 to 2005. With his extensive academic background, vast experience, and numerous publications, Dr. Ida continues to make a profound impact in the field of information science. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Ida Fajar Priyanto to present his talk today.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, especially to Dr. Haslinda. Uh, I know has Dr. Haslinda for some years ago, has been some years ago. And well, due to my problem with my health, couple of weeks ago, I had an accident, so I couldn't prepare so well for this session. But I hope this is fine. I'll try my best. Um, Also, this would be up to 1 p.m. due to my flight as well to Surabaya. So I'm sorry for this, but let me. I will uh, have two slides today, and then we will have a Q&A after, right after my two slides. First, we will talk about the use of data for social media. Um, well, let me start with our conf sorry. Okay. Let me start with the meaning. What is a social media? So, as you know, nowadays we have so many social media. But social media is defined as websites or applications that enable users to create and share contents so that everyone can connect to interact with one another. Also, if you see from Bradley, social media refers to the use of web-based, but now we move to mobile technologies so that we communicate to each other in an interactive, synchronous uh, discussion, meeting, and so on. And it is also interesting that in Indonesia, for example, everybody has lots of WhatsApp group. When I ask my students, for example, they will say that they have more than 20, more than 30 WhatsApp groups for everything. That is really interesting that we experience something new in the last 3 decades. So this is the form of electronic communication. And actually, we also start from microblogging and so on in the 1990s. And then we continue with such as synchronous meeting, messaging, and so on. And we have lots of social media nowadays. So in time when we have a digital environment, that is really we have changed our way of life. We see that our life now, both uh, in life and on site, we on site and online, we are living there in both, and then we also use lots of social media nowadays. I think everybody has more and more in your mobile phone, especially because now we are moving to mobile. TikTok is also increasing very quickly. Also, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all are very popular here in especially in Indonesia. Yeah, maybe also in Malaysia. So, but talking about social media, we can say that actually social media has began uh, in the pre-internet. That's like digital library, for example. In digital library, actually has already about 90 years to begin. 1930s or so, when Paul Outlet discussed about the media like that was now called computer. But talking about social media, actually, it began in May 24th, 1844, that people believe that actually telegraph machine has been considered as the beginning of our social media. But then development of internet, especially, we call this as modern origins of social media. So social media point to the emergence in 1969 with the development of internet, and it also the most the first true social media actually existed in the 1990s. So we have pre-internet, social media, and then modern origins, and then the true social media platform in the 1990s. We also see the beginning of social media that began in the 1990s. We have 6 degrees, and then also any other blog. We have, as you know, that 6 degrees, for example, they start with the listing of friends, family members, and so on. That is the beginning of modern social media. And then web blogs that people can comment so what the people write, and then they have an interaction. And then I remember when I first had an account of Friendster, for example. Friendster didn't last very long. And then MySpace, also LinkedIn actually has been a long time, but getting more popular nowadays, especially for working, for works, jobs, and so on. And then Sing and Facebook. Facebook, I think, is still popular in many places. As you know, that Facebook began in 2004, and lots of users. In Indonesia, we have a joke, that because now we have more and more people, especially the old people, the senior citizens coming to the Facebook. So the young people then move to Instagram so that they can discuss and they have discussion about for young people in Instagram. And then Facebook has lots of older or senior people. That is our jokes there. Although young people also still in Facebook. You also know that Reddit, for example, also has many people as users. Also Twitter. Twitter born in 2006, but this is still popular. Um, as you see that Instagram is not popular, especially for young people. This is a photo of video sharing, and we have 1 billion users worldwide. Pinterest, although it is not so popular in Southeast Asia, but this is also good to see that there are lots of users as well. And then Snapchat. Snapchat dated back to 2011. This is a video sharing that they have stories or short videos. And then TikTok, the new social media platform, but it is increasing so quickly that we have more than 800 million users worldwide. But as I said, in Indonesia, we have especially the four social media platforms like YouTube, and then Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. So those four are very, very popular. I think that is similar to uh, those in Malaysia, that people still use those four. Um, the current one is Be Real, is the fastest growing social media platform. I have not used this yet, but it seems that this will also rise for for media for social media users. And as you know as well, that social media is now used for advertising as well, so that the business for social media increasing, and it is expected that in this year, uh, 207 billion US dollars will be taken by the companies uh, doing advertising in social media. also expected it will increase 247 by 2027. So as you see that social media now move from only interaction among people, but now also business, that people use social media for advertising especially. The number is not very much known. Wikimedia, the number of social media, I mean, that Wikipedia lists more than 200, and then Solis say under 200 before 2016. But actually, I believe that it is now more than 200 social media, even maybe 300, 400, although we don't know exactly how many, but by the time we come, I mean, every time we will see that there will be more and more development about social media. And the users as well. More and more people become residents of social media, and as we have seen, it is expected that in 2027 there will be 5.85 billions of people becomes resident of the social media. So it is really increasing that people now use social media as sharing information, discussing about their experience and so on. Well, talking about social media and then media analytics, we actually don't just discuss about how many clicks or how many views our videos, for example. Also, how many likes. While as I noticed, especially in the library accounts, in Indonesia again, I see that some libraries try to have more and more likes. So they encourage people and also generates the number of likes. They think that by showing the likes, it means that the company and the organization, the library, will be enjoyed so much. But this is fake actually. So social media analytics actually doesn't just talk about likes and then number of clicks, number of views, of viewers, and then number of followers, and how many people share. But it is more than that. Uh, but social media analytics is not just a report. For example, as you see in Academia Edu, for example, we get email from Academia Edu that somebody is reading our paper, and then how many people actually read our papers and so on. That is a report by social media, Academia Edu, and then also Google Analytics, and then LinkedIn. But it's not just a report by the by services, but it is more than that. So social media analytics is a way of how we gather and finding meaning in data that we can get from social media to support the decision making. What we will do by seeing and analyzing our data in the social media. So it can be used for social, political, business, and other issues. Nowadays, I see that some ministers, some politicians in Indonesia now appear especially Instagram and Facebook. They try to get their opinions heard, and they do so because we will have elections early next year. So more and more political people, I mean politicians, appear in the social media. And I think some other analysts, social media analysts also discuss about the appearance of political discussion, and then politicians, the number of the chats, and then the comment and so on. So this is an interesting time in Indonesia that we have social media analytics. And social media analytics play a role to measure actually the performance of actions that will be conducted. So after we see that we have lots of viewers, so what we will do after we have seen the comments of our social media posts, it's like that. So what we will do. So that is the importance of social media analytics and the data that we get and then we analyze. One very simple and early analysis is, I think, by using this VR analysis. It is also good to see, especially in the academic institutions, like in universities, to see or to do VR analysis. VR analysis is visitor resident analysis. In this case, we can see uh, how many people are living, or we call residents, residents of social media, and where they actually live. So where they live in the social media, whether they live in Facebook, whether they live in Instagram, whether they live in Skype, YouTube, and so on. So this is a very good to begin an analysis of visitor residence. In this case, as also visitor, visitor means that somebody comes to visit, for example, Google, then they visit, just visit, uh, and then stop, just finish. But in Facebook, they really live, they have an account. So we will see if they live in Facebook and our users live in Facebook. So you will have to analyze the users in Facebook. So this is a good beginning, to see. For example, in the librarianships, in librarianships. Now, this if we see the VR analysis, we see that students, instead of visiting the library first, they go to Google. So this is a challenge for the librarians. Why students go to Google as the first place to go to visit, and then they also go to Wikipedia to go as the first visit or second visit, But usually they go last to the library, when they couldn't get resources useful for them in Google or in Wikipedia, especially. Then they go to library. So this is a change, in the academic life, that students, instead of visiting the library, they usually go to Google. That is the visitors. But if we can see also that uh, students live in Instagram, for example, so the library, in this case, can go to Instagram to promote their activities and their services. So we can do this via analysis as the beginning of other for I mean for other analysis. So we have social media analytics. If we can see that this is from brand 24, that I noticed that there are 15 social media good media analytics. Google Analytics, Bush Sumo, Brand 24, and so on. These have different characteristics, so we have to choose the best one to analyze our social media. So whether you want to use buffer, audience, Quintly, brand watch, and so on, it really depends on what we will analyze. So if we want to analyze this, so you use this analytics. So it really depends. So we have to learn about the characteristic of this social media analytics. And also we should know that some are paid, so you have to mostly, mostly not only some, but you say mostly social media analytics are paid tools, instead of just free. You can use Google Analytics, but this is a bit difficult, for the analysis, and also limited. So, but it is free. The functions of social media analytics are a lot actually. So this is the one important thing is that social media analytics is important because we will get data, and the data of social media can be used as sources of social media traffics. So whether people go to which social media and what topics are the best issue, the current issues in the that social media, and what people talk about, So we will be able to use these sources of social media traffics. And then social media analytics also play a role in obtaining the most shared content. So we will see what are the most shared contents, especially current one, so that what you can do with uh, the content that mostly shared. And then we can participate, or we can also do the same, and also getting data from the social media also has another thing to think about. For example, the types of content, what type of contents that are shared, and then also top share domains, also top social media platforms. So in that case, VR analysis is also a good way to see the social media platforms that our users or our society or community live, and then we will what we can do with by knowing their the top social media platforms, and then social media analytics can give data, and then the data can we can get information about the top influencers, especially if you work in the industry, and then you have products, and then you also promote in social media. So getting information about the top influencers, especially in the similar products or industry, will be very important, so that you have to get new ideas on how to promote, how to advertise, and then what products will be attractive for them. So, although this is mostly very useful for companies or industry, but it is also very important, for individuals as well. Social media analytics also is also useful to obtain the performance of keywords. So you can get the keywords on Facebook, Twitter's, Instagram. Also, you can see how many mentions of your company or your institution, and then also the social media reach, which social media has been reached by your institutions, organizations. Another interesting is sentiment analysis, whether what you say in the social media is positive or negative. This is also a good idea to see, I think there are also tools to see the sentiment analysis, of the keywords that you post, Social media analytics data can also be used to track, the engagement of the posts, whether people are interested in your posts, or they don't really interested in. Also, if you do campaign, and then you may see whether your campaign is attractive or not. That is also good to see from the data. Social media analytics data can also be used to find out the influence of social media authors. Whether people talk about you or your company or your organization or your topics or your products, that is also a good idea, to see, if you can see that people talk about you positively based on the sentiment analysis. So that is also good things that you can move to maybe you have more and more products, to show, you have more services to tell them, So finding out the influence of social media authors is also good, who talk about you. That is a good idea, to see. Um, Also, we can get information on the trending hashtags. Hashtag is very popular and very important in this case. How many times your hashtags is used in social media, and whether you also put hashtags in your posts. So getting information on the trending hashtags will allow us to understand what is the best to talk about in the social media that we want to share, especially with your posts. Another social media analytics data that you can discuss, you can do is by viewing what types of content may work best. So the type of content that attracts your users. For example, in my case, when I talk about this is personal, not business account. My Facebook is a personal account, and when I notice, uh, I will. I mean, a lot of response, good sentiment that people think about when I post about my family, my health. I mean the health of my family, because some of my families died after they age. I mean over 100 years old. The last one died 103 years. And they responded well. So viewing what types of content will work for you, because this is good. So that you can choose what content you post best. That is a good idea to see. When you should post content is also another thing that you have to consider. For example, in my case, in Indonesia, for example, it is not a very good idea to post on Sunday, because I noticed that on Sunday people don't go to Facebook a lot. That is an interesting point, that you should post content to achieve the highest engagement, but you should know when you'd better to post. And it is also interesting to see that how often you post, how many times you post, weekly or monthly, is also a good idea. Because if you post a lot, say for example, one day you post several posts, maybe this is not a good idea. Maybe people will get bored with your posts. But it is also interesting to know that KLM, for example, the airline company, they post every 5 minutes, as I read the news. So we have to think about whether people will be interested in knowing what we post. So when they are interested in knowing our posts and types of content that they are interested in, then monitoring the activities of your team is also interesting. So you will keep your best service when you see that your team, maybe your students, your colleagues, that have the same interest, the same topics, the same ideas so that you can monitor the activities, and then you will maybe you have better ideas. So that is sort of monitoring, but actually you can start with the competition. You compete with other competitors. Another functions is comparing audience insight, and comparing post engagement of multiple social media profiles. So you can compare between one social media platform and another, the response of your post, So whether the post attracts audience better in the Instagram or in Facebook, for example. That is also a good idea to see. So what types of content is good for one platform and what is not good for that platform, and then whether this content is good for another platform. That is, you have to compare, whether the audience are interested in. Also see whether your competitors, if you have products, for example, so you see if your competitors also promote the same or they post something similar. So, and then how the response from the audience, that is also a good idea to see. Scheduling your posts is also good, scheduling weekly, monthly, quarterly. Also the post, what you post, and then you can also have the schedule of the data or information that you get from social media analytics, and you can do a sort of report, and then you can also do something like you can have you put in one reports, and then you can see the development of your post, the development of the engagement of the audience, and so on, so that you see that whether what you post is interesting for the customers, interesting for the company, good and beneficial for the your organization, so that can be analyzed, and you can understand better if you can schedule the report, and then you compare the report from previous report to the next report, and so on. Social media data can be also used for analyzing what are the most brands investing in currently, investing in. So you can see what, especially this is for the business, business accounts. If you are in a company and you have the business account, so you can see whether what are the most brands investing in, and then what about your brands, and then you can compare whether your brands are better than others, and how they post. Next is you can also analyze and understand the competitors' contents. You can do the analysis, social media analytics, and then you see the competitors' content and whether you can compete with them. So this is another good idea to use the data, and then you can start with something new, something better than the competitors. As I mentioned earlier, writing a report is also good for you to write, so that you see the performance, and then you also comparing one report of one platform and another, and then also comparing the posts, whether your post, the content of the post, what type of content, and so on. Comparing one platform and another, that is also things you can do and practice. Next is in the analysis of the performance of your social media posts, and what you can get and what you can improve if you can get the information about your social media posts. So you can see the best type of content to post and the best time to post. This is what I mentioned earlier. So by getting the data that your post attracts when you post on specific date, and then the best type of content for your audience is that one. So you will continue with posting that type of content. Interaction is also another thing that you can get from the data. Interaction of your social media posts, whether you get response positively or negatively. As I noticed in Indonesia, because we are entering the election now, the one post from, for example, one candidate for president, they post something, and then there will be pro and cons of the response that uh, you will be able to see. I noticed as well that some ministers here also post contents, and then the response are so and so. Some say positively, some say negatively. That is an interesting phenomenon in the political issues currently in Indonesia. So analysis of the interaction of your social media posts will be a good idea. And then tracking across multiple platforms. So you compare between one platform and another, and then tracking engagement for particular posts. So you have a specific post, and then you need to see how people engage, or the audience engage in that post. So maybe you can do something for this. And then how many times your link has been shared. Another important thing is this one, is that sharing your links. We seldom think about this, but I think this is also good, to see whether what we post is shared to others, and how many sharing. That is also important in that case, so that it has an impact from your post. And then the analysis of top 100 posts from what you have done, what you have posted. So you can check, you can analyze how many what are the best posts, top 100 posts that you have. There are a lot more of the functions of the social media analytics data that you can track the mentions of your social media profiles. There's another thing that maybe it's also good, that you or your products or your organization are mentioned by others. So maybe your profile is mentioned, maybe your keywords, the keywords of what you post, and then maybe your organization as well, and this is also good, to see the sentiments of uh, the mention, the mention, whether this is good mentions or negative mentions. Collecting your online mentions from social media is important, and then you can compare how many say negative sentiments, and then also how many say positively. So that is also to improve your performance. You can analyze how many sentiments, negative sentiments mentioned about you. Detecting images also a good idea to talk about, to analyze, to have this data. The logo of your organization, your company, even your profile, because nowadays we also have images. This use, when people use our profile, photo profile, to do something like we call penipuan in Indonesia. So some people get, steal our photo, and then they try to convince other people, and then they want to get money from. So detecting images containing the picture of you and then the logo of your organization, that is also important. How many times your photo is used by others not properly. For example, I noticed my photo was used by one person, and then they never, I mean, nobody else has done again. I hope they will not use my photo anymore, to do bad doing. Another data that you can use, that you can get, is finding where your mentions from. Who mentions you? That is another thing that it is good for you to know. If he or she is VIP, for example, mention you, that is a good idea, that you are known by others, and whether the mentions are dealing with negative or positive sentiments. So who says what? Who said what? That is important in this case. And then getting data concerning with the authors of mentions, their gender, their interest, profession, even location. If you have one profession and then you are mentioned by the authors of somebody who posts about and then mention you, but from different profession, that means your profession is attractive for other profession as well. That means you can extend your products, your service, your skills, and so on to other professions. And even location, whether the mentions of you is in the same place, local or national or international. So getting data concerning with the author's location is also a good idea. And then you can see that how wide your interaction has been. And then getting data from your inbox as well, whether you get inbox from social media analytics, whether people are contacting you, send you messages and so on. So, and how many and where the messages come from. The last two functions of the data from social media analytics is getting data about the most influential social media profile of individual and an organization or companies. In that case, you can learn, who are the most influential profile, and then you can learn from them, from individual, whether they are from organization or companies, why they are most influential. So you can get this, and then you can learn, and then you can practice. And the last one is monitoring the queries of social media users. I think there's also social media analytics. I think Irhamni, my colleague, to the presentation on the 6th July, will discuss about social media analytics. So he will discuss about this as well. So monitoring the queries of social media users is a good idea. I think it has been conducted by Facebook, for example. If you your queries concerning with one topic, and then Facebook will give you further information about similar or same queries. So that is the importance of artificial intelligence. So AI has been around, and then also help us to give ideas, and then to give information, further information. So social media analytics data has lots of function that we can use as individual, as organization or companies, to promote our products, to promote our services, and then we can see our position as well. So the data from social media analytics, in that case, is I'm sure that this is very important. So to sum up, my first presentation is that from the data that we get from social media, we can do some sort of content discovery, what content is the most shared, how the audience respond, and then content analysis, what types of content is of interest, which platform of social media has the most content and which content is of interest in each platform. Also, the influencer analysis, who or what is the top influencer of the same products, similar products, that you have as a company. And then social media analytics, you can get the data and you will see how is the performance of the keywords that you post, on your social media platform accounts, and the number of mentions, the number of audience, and then how is the sentiment analysis result, whether this is positive or negative. Metrics of engagement is also a good idea. That data is very useful to find out how the audience engage in your posts, whether they talk further, whether they contact us, and so on. And also hashtag analysis is another important thing. You can find the trending hashtags, as I mentioned earlier, how many times the hashtag is used. And social engagement analytics data, so analysis of interaction of your posts, whether you get interaction from or receive information, increase. You receive interaction from the audience of what you have posted. And social message analytics is to find out how your particular posts result in engagement, whether you post your post has interest, has been of interest for others. And social share can means that this is how many times your posts or links have been shared to other social media. So social sharing is also important data, because we will see how far, how many, and whether our post has reached different groups of people. And then top post report. So this is also good to see in which rank our posts and our profile in the social media. Audience share is tracking and analyzing the queries from audience, and then benchmarking, finding out what content work best for us. So what type of content we better post. And then centralized analytics. You get data, a number of similar social media content, what types of contents that your colleagues has and are similar to yours. So that is my first sessions. Let me continue with the next share. My next topic is the role of information professionals in the information age. I misread, the topics that Dr. Haslinda mentions earlier. It was in the social media era, but I misread and then I changed to information age. I'm sorry for this, but I hope this is okay. But I will try to deal with social media as well. Sorry for this. So I will start with the information age first because of my mistake in reading the topics. So as we know that the development of information age has been long time ago. I think industrial age lasted for about 300 years. It's been so long, so long time that from one generation to another, it lasts maybe can be 10, can be 5 generation or so, But information age started only 30 years ago. We can say that information age started with the beginning of internet, and then it grew very fast. It has grown so fast that we don't realize that we are coming to the technology, that we are dependent on technology a lot more nowadays in the during the last 30 years. But early stages of information age took only some decades. We can see that computers only coming last age, and then 20th century, and then in the middle of 20th century, and then it developed so fast. And then internet came in the last decade of last century and grew so fast that social media is one of the issue that now we have. Now new technologies come multi times every year. A new platform comes every year, but there are many platforms appear every year. So the development of technology actually devoted to information. Although information existed since the existence of human being, we see that if you read information plot, I think I forgot the author, but it mentions that actually information has existed since the existence of human being. But we only discuss information in the last few decades. Information nowadays is created exponentially, and then we have information flood. That I think we experience this. So when you search in Google, you will find so many pages of what you queries. For example, you find out about one subject, and then you have so many pages of Google that you are offered, and then you only see 1 or 2 pages, and then you leave Google search. That is what we can see, that the information is now coming exponentially and so large. We can also see that the internet minute, in every minute in 2023, we can see that 3 millions of photos created with smartphones. So this is very huge number of photos in 1 minute in the world. And then you see that emoji, almost 7 million every minute. And then chats on Microsoft Teams, 11,000. You can also see how many fake accounts remove every minute. So many fake accounts, remove. And then Instagram, how many viewing. So you see a lot of development and information. So I can say that nowadays we have information flood. You can also see that every minute you see application downloaded 47,000 every minute, and then hours of music 60,000 hours per minute. So that is so huge. And even in China itself, China internet in 60 seconds, you can see DD, for example, 56,000 drivers pick up passengers in 1 minute. I remember during the pandemic, in the early pandemics, I was in Beijing, and then we have to use DD to get a taxi, you know. And yeah, every minute, so many people take DG. So you see that internet is used a lot, but information that is generated by internet is huge, you know. You see that information age, we see our mobile phone, we have to change again and again because our storage is not enough. So we use maybe megabyte, gigabyte, but nowadays half terabyte or 500 megabyte, gigabyte, uh, nowadays seems to be very small as well. You know? So you see that the development of information produced is a lot. You know? And then so what we have to think about is whether we will be able to manage the information. Um, Talking about the development of technology, we have Stephen Kotler's 60s, in which we see that uh, we have digitalization, especially in the last 30 years, that digitalization existed and happening and still continue to change the way of our lives, you know. And it is very deceptive, you know. Maybe you don't remember anymore that when you first had mobile phone, you still have three characters, A, B, C, and uh, one button, you know. But nowadays you have no button at all in your mobile phone, you know. But and then the QWERTY as well. You know. So we change, you know, deceptively. You know, you don't really notice the development, but you experience the development, and then it is also disruptive. We change our way of life. You know, that we no longer use the old ways, and then we change to the new way. Especially this is. It happened so fast during the pandemic, you know, that people are forced to use technology instead of manual. You know. So when we go to an office, for example, we have to scan QR, for example, so that people will see that you how many times you have been what you call the something, you know, you got how many times you have been get vaccine, you know. And then also we use Google Map, you know. In the old days, we use paper map to go anywhere, and then we now use Google Map whenever we go. So that is also we experience that, and then demonetize. We no longer have use not no longer, but we decreasing use the coins and notes. Now we use mobile phone. We use mobile phone to pay. We use mobile phone to do anything that we can transfer using mobile phone, for example. So mobile banking, for example, is the development in the fintech, you know, financial technology. And then dematerialize. Dematerialize means that you don't need to bring various tools when you travel here and there. You know, in the old days, you brought the camera, and then you brought your maybe Walkman, and then you also bring mobile phone, and then you maybe bring some other things to write, for example. But now you only have one tool, a mobile phone only, and you can do a lot more using that mobile phone. So dematerialize means that everything you should bring can be in the one tool. And then it also goes to democratization. Democratize means that we don't see whether you are president, whether you are minister, whether you are the common people. So you have the same account in the social media. So in the social media, we don't care whether your position is president, whether your position is a minister, and so on. Everyone is the same. You have equal position in social media. Information grows exponentially. Everyone has information every minute, every second. That nowadays even more. And according to the study in Berkeley, every child, every baby born, they already brings with him 800 megabytes of data. That is in the early 2004. I think it's about 2004. The research was done, but I think now every baby born has more than 800 megabytes because you have USG scan while the baby is still in the mother's body, and then after the baby born, everybody has video, and then you have food and so on for your akikoh, so that you have names, and then you have your local government write your names for the baby, and then the date of the baby included there. So every baby born nowadays produce more than 800 megabytes, and everyone has now also produced more and more information. Remember when we have lunch together, you will take photo, as a ritual, modern ritual, you take photo of the food first before you eat, So that is also the way we produce information. Everyone take pictures, everyone posts pictures or videos, every minute, So information grows exponentially. And the technology plays an important role in information management, so that this is the technology is available and you enjoy the information. So everybody now is also the producer of information. So what happens then is that the information flood. So information flood existed. You can see that everybody posts everything in the social media, and this result actually in a scare economy of attention. When you have lots of information, you have less attention. So we have to understand this economy of attention or economy of information. In the information economy, we see that the more you have information, the rare your attention is. So Floridi mentions about three categories of history. First is prehistory. That means you have no ICTs. When you have no ICTs, means you have no records. So prehistory doesn't mean that it also only happens in the old days. Even nowadays, in the rural areas or in the Amazon, for example, maybe they have no ICTs, so that we wouldn't have the information. So because that is no ICTs. If you have ICTs, but you only use sometimes, that means you live in the history. So history is the time when individual is independent of ICTs. So you use only the line line phone, and then you only call somebody, and then when you finish, you leave the technology. So when you are not so dependent on ICT, that means you live in history. So that means also that ICT exists already, but the technology used is different. For example, when people still print letters. So actually you have email, but you still prefer the paper of the printed letters. It happens to my colleagues. When I send letters to him, say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they didn't accept it as a formal invitation. So they wanted to have the paper on the printed letter. So we have to print it and then send to the post office, and they get the formal invitation. That is a bit funny, for me, because that is not so common for the people nowadays. Also, this is also funny, when you have the email, but you still attach the PDF versions of a letter. That means that you use email for mail. So it is very common here in Indonesia that people attach invitation letter in the PDF file, but actually they send email. So the email function as a media to send letters in PDF version of format. So that means that we still live in the history instead of hyper history. In the hyper history, we can chat, we can discuss through mobile phone, and then we can do something. So when we individual is dependent on ICTs. Everywhere we go, we bring our mobile phone. That means we live in hyper history. So in hyper history, whether you are on site or whether you are online, there's a blur. And there's blur. So you chat in the online, from the online, and then you meet somebody on site. So that is you live in hyper history. But maybe you live between history and hyper history, like the case in Indonesia that librarians usually ask the PDF version of the invitation and send through their emails or send through WhatsApp. So that is very common. Okay. So ICTs have changed the way people live. The behavior, we forget sometimes we are okay when we forget something, but we are not okay when we forget our mobile phone. So the behavior has changed. Our habits also change. We can see people sitting down and see their mobile phones. That doesn't happen in the old days. Also, when we see the primary orality, in which people talk to each other in any place, they talk through their mouth, face to face, and then we change to secondary orality. People still talk, but they use they use their fingers and thumb. They chat through WhatsApp, for example. So that is called secondary orality. So in the first, primary orality, people talk directly, but in the secondary orality, people talk through their mobile phones, and that actually is the habit change, but the way they do is different. The work as well, when you work, maybe you remember that you work with piles of papers in the old days, but now you in front of your work, your place is always a desktop or laptop. And in economy, it also has changed a lot, especially with the mobile banking and finance, and then also shops, when you change from window shopping, and that means you walk from one shop to another, window shopping, but now you change to windows shopping. You see from the screen the products that you want to buy, So you change from window shopping to shopping, and then you buy everything using the mobile phone. Even here in Indonesia, it is very popular that people buy food, buy other products, through the application called Gojek, something like Grab in Malaysia. Education also changed, in the old days, we have people have to go to the campus most of the time, but now we have hybrid. Sometimes you can do study by attending courses through online. But nowadays we can do both, online and on-site. Communication as well. In the old days we have to meet in person, but nowadays we can meet through the screens. Also in the military, you can see how many drones has been used in the Ukraine's war. So in the hyper history, people are dependent completely on ICTs. And there's a saying that no record, no history. And then people also say that no picture hoax. So no record, no history, no picture hoax. So they don't believe us when we talk only without pictures. So we have to show the pictures first, and then they will believe. So I think maybe that also happens in Malaysia. That no record, no history, no picture hoax. So in hyperhistory, we also have transparency versus spying. You see that everywhere we are spied. You see that when we enter some place, there is CCTV. And when you come to the office, you will be caught by CCTV. That I don't know whether this is spying or positively, spying positively, or this is something like that you are being watched. But this is also transparencies that people will be known, transparently, that you are aware. If you see that information shows that what you have done, what you have seen, what you have conducted, everything is now transparent. Based on McCrindle, I think this is McCrindle that mentions about digital monks. In the digital world, we see that I mentioned this digital monks. Digital monks mean the type of people who never use technology. So they live in what you call prehistory. Digital monks don't use technology. They use to live in the area where there is no technology at all. I read some articles that Amazon is still the, the place where digital monks live, where people don't use technology at all. And then we also have digital immigrants. Digital immigrants, people who use technology after they growing up. Maybe after they are older, after they are senior citizens, they join Facebook, for example. So they are digital immigrants. So they use technology when they are already growing older. But among them, among the digital immigrants, among the old people, there is also actually a type of a group of communities called digital settlers. Digital settlers mean they are old by age, but they follow the development of technology. So they change over times what technology are used nowadays. So they don't feel awkward with the new technologies. They can adapt to the new technologies. Another group of digital community or society is digital natives. I mentioned about Gen Y, which is more popular mentioned as millennial, because they live when they are still young, they still um, use toys, not digital toys, but they use traditional toys. But when they grow adult, they change to technologies, especially when they are young adults, And then Generation Z is a generation when people are now they were born when internet existed. So we have Generation Y when the internet was not has not existed yet when they were born, and but they grew up, and when they are young adult, they comes to the era of internet. And then among this, also what access what is called by Generation Alpha. So Gen Alpha are those who are from their birth, they already have technology. I sometimes make a joke that some Alpha generation or Generation Alpha, even when they were born, so they hear or they listen to the uh, that from the mobile phone instead of from their fathers. So because of the technology, so you play then from the mobile phone, and then so Gen Alpha already use technology since they were childhood in their childhood. And Gen Alpha were born mostly in the 2010. So nowadays they are still young. Maybe the oldest is about 13 years old, not yet in the university. But then in the 2025, there will be Gen Beta. They, I think, will live in the 5G era, and then they will also live in the time when technology getting more mature. So there are differences in the way people use technologies because of their age. But some other people also call that they don't agree, they disagree with this division. So they change into Gen C. Gen C means generation that are connected one another. So whoever or old they are, that is not important. What is important is they can get connected using any platform, any applications, and they can interact with one another using technology. During the interaction between one another, maybe there will be differences among people. So, for example, one person will interact with one post in the social media. So one post, and then they react to one post, and then they are angry, for example. Uh, Whereas it is not their concerns, for example. So maybe it is not their concerns, but they want to react, and maybe they react angrily, for example. So we have various types of people in the social media, uh, not only based on the characters of the digital world, as I mentioned earlier, you have immigrants, you have natives, and so on. But this is also influenced by their behavior, their habit as well. So we see that there's a circle of control, and then circle of influence, and circle of concerns. So there are three types that we have to consider in this case. So you see that if somebody are in the circle of concerns, they will react to any post in the social media. If somebody talk about politics, and then they react to this, and they spend time mostly for reaction. But people in the circle of control, they will do better because they will think about what action, what thoughts, what response, what attitudes they should think about, and then they will do the best for themselves, But those living in the circle of conscience, they will not so much care about themselves, but they care of others. So in war, politics, and any other discussion, especially like in the secondary orality, as I mentioned earlier, that people spend time in the WhatsApp groups, spending time and then they chat with others hours in more than 1 hour. They can spend a lot of time. In Facebook, we have Info Cegatan Yogyakarta group. This is a public group in Facebook in which it talks about just anything in the social life. And when one posts something, someone posts, and then there we respond. Even in 1 minute, there are lots of respond, and then some will stay there to react to the response from others. So that means they live in the circle of concerns. They care so much of others, but doesn't care much of their time for themselves. So this exists in the time of social media, in which people will consider themselves to think about themselves, also think about others so much with the technology. It is also influenced by the circle of influence, whether your friends discuss more, react more to the circle of concern or any posts of others that are not important for you, or you concerns more about what you have to do. So this is also important to see what type of generations that we live with them, whether they think so much of others and spend much time for doing nothing but discussion or talking about nothing, or they prefer to think about themselves to develop. So there are three circles in this case that we have to see, especially in relations to social media. So somebody will stay in the social media for a long time, but some people will spend time short in social media, only respond to what is important for them. But let me come back to what is information. So information actually is stimulus that change our cognitive structure. This was defined by Bill Pashley in 1986, 88, 68. And then Balkin also defined information as anything that can change a person's knowledge. So information, I don't discuss about hierarchy of data, information, knowledge, and wisdom, but information itself is a stimulus that changes our cognitive structure. So information can be abstract, can be in any forms. It can be sound. When you hear something, that is also information. When you see something, that is also information. When you experience of touching something that is so hot or so cold, that is also information. And then information also anything that can change. Maybe you can read. When you read, you get information or knowledge, and then you change your knowledge. You have more knowledge, more information. So information, as you can see, can be we can get information from any of our what you call from our outside, our taste, and so on. So when you want to know about the taste of food, you don't read, you don't read text, but you taste it. So you eat it, and then you can tell you can tell about what food it is. But if you only read how hot is, for example, coffee, or how is the taste of coffee, you should try to taste it or and to smell it and so on. So information can be anything that change your knowledge. And then information should be new and should be true. If it is false, so that is called mis or dis or mis of disinformation. Uh, if you get information of the same thing several times, that is not informative. So that is not information. So when you hear something again and again, so that is the first is information, the second is not no longer information. And then it should be something that is maybe abstract, maybe substance, maybe concept, and so on. So something, but it is not clear. So that is information. So the taste of food, the taste of drink, you can experience by tasting it, but if you read it, you don't know the exact information. You only imagining the information. In the social media, we have problems because we don't only get information, because people can spend time say doing something with purpose. It could be that I noticed in my group of older people in my group, when I was librarians, some those who retired, they have a group, of WhatsApp, and then they sometimes just post or share information. Sometimes the information is not right, so they just misinformation, doing misinformation, maybe unintentionally, or they believe that this is true, but it is not, so they don't think much about the information, but they believe it is true, so they just share, so that is called misinformation, unintentionally distributed information, although this information is not right. So misinformation is sometimes acceptable, sometimes confusing, but this is not so not so bad, But these two, the other two, disinformation and malinformation, are the two not in a positive purpose. So disinformation is knowingly developing and disseminating incorrect information in order to deceive, So they disinform others, something not right, something not true, that they tell others. So that is disinform. While malinformation is disturbing information such as personal information, but this is true information, right information, correct. The information is true, but this is intended to harm. For example, when somebody posted a picture of a girl and a man, but they are actually friends or something like, and then you post it in the WhatsApp group, and then you say something, oh, this girl now, the married girl, for example, the married woman now close friend with others. So that is the picture is true, but the information is not. So the picture is called malinformation because it is intended to do something bad, So intended to deceive, intended to harm others, by showing the true information, but it is the information is not right, So sometimes you can also see true information intended to do something bad, So that is called malinformation. So we have 4 types of information, and actually another information is exformation. Exformation is something that is not necessarily important. I remember when when there's an institution, an academic institution in my city in Yogyakarta, force the students to write a dissertation in 300 pages minimum. My friend finished his dissertation only 230, and then he was forced to add 70 more pages to write in order to get 300 pages. So those 700 pages of information is actually information that is unnecessary information, but you have to add, that without that additional information, actually it is enough, So X formation is something that is actually not necessary, but sometimes it is included. So when you speak longer in order to achieve time, that is also, there are some X formation beside you give information. The Council of Europe's Information Disorder report show that misinformation is defined as when false information is shared but no harm is meant. So the sender doesn't mean something to do to cause harm, for example. While disinformation is false information is knowingly shared to cause harm, and malinformation is genuine information, true information shared to cause harm. Oftentimes, this is by moving information designed to stay private to the public sphere. So actually, this is private information, but so WikiLeaks is something like malinformation. So when you have private information, personal information, and you share to others or to public, that is actually malinformation. I experienced something like this sometimes in the old days. Another thing to consider is literacy, illiteracy, and illiteracy. Literacy is the ability to read and write, but you should remember that in ICRO, you have to see that reading doesn't mean reading letters, but you read the environment as well. You can also read by watching, by listening, by seeing, and then by testing and so on. So literacy, according to ICRO, is wider, not only just read and write. And illiteracy is the inability to read and write. So if we combine with ICRO, so that means inability to understand the environment and unable to understand the surrounding, and then or neglecting the surrounding, that is illiteracy of environment. And then illiteracy is having the ability, you can read and write, but you don't do anything. So you can read, but you never do anything. So you see in the environment that something happens, and something bad happens, for example, but you do nothing for them, that is illiteracy. So illiteracy is you can do something actually, but you don't do anything. So illiteracy is another problem that sometimes it is unnoticed. We still deal with illiteracy more instead of illiteracy. And also in the digital era, like nowadays, we also have to think about the importance of digital ethics. So whether you have to post it, whether you have to post or not to post, that is important. And then how to write, how to say something. So you have to do, you have to think about that much. Information professionals, I define as a wide areas of profession. Can be information officers, information scientists, librarians, digital curators, and so on. So those are information professionals. But when you have to do something to deal with what I have mentioned earlier about illiteracy, illiteracy, and then malinformation, disinformation. So you cannot do yourself. You need collaboration. it is a good point to think about how to collaborate with and who to collaborate with. And you also need tools in order to work with information pollution, misinformation, disinformation, literacy, digital illiteracy. One thing about information pollution is uh, the number of unused information that is spreading everywhere, every day. You see a lot of information. Also in the even in WhatsApp group, you also have information pollution. Lot of unused information. Even on the road, in my country, in Indonesia, for example, every meter, every 1 meter, you will find information, but they are not used. So information pollution, how to deal with. Yeah. So the role of information professionals are actually a lot. So you have to think about how to cope with information pollution, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and there are activities that you can do. There are lots of activities. One thing about digital literacy, which is also important in this case, is because we are in the time of digital era, and we live in the social media as residents. We think about critical thinking and evaluation. So we have to evaluate whether the information is correct, or information is disinformation, and so on. And then we also think about e-safety. Digital safety is very important. How to cope with cloning, for example, cloning of our WhatsApp, cloning of our account in social media, and so on. That is e-safety. But evaluation is also important. And then cultural and social understanding. What people enjoy, what people do in the social life, in real life, and then what the people do in the social digital life, and culturally and socially. So Facebook, for example, in my area where I live, it is also a good place to post, for example, when somebody died, for example. So they post in the Facebook group information about the death, and then so we could takziah, to pay a visit for the death. So that is social activities in the social media. So we can learn. We have to learn, about cultural and social understanding, both in life and online. Collaboration, as I mentioned, is also important. So you cannot only do by yourself, as information professionals. So you may collaborate with others. And then curating information. So curating information, because what we have done in the old days maybe will disappear soon. So we have to think about how to curate information, how to keep our information available for several certain times. If you have your paper written in wood star or galaxy, and then that is impossible for you to uh, read using Microsoft Office. So you have to curate by changing to PDF, for example. That is one way or another. So curating information can be in different format. And then creativity is also another thing in the digital literacy point. In this case, you have to think about how to do campaign creatively using which social media, and as information professional, you can suggest any ideas, using VR analysis I mentioned in the first slide, whether people live as residents in which platforms, and then you can choose which one. And practical and functional skills, that is also important. How to do what with your mobile phones, that is functional and practical skill, because practical and functional skills can help us to help with our e-safety. So these are things that professional of information can do, and you can think about more about any roles, especially in the you have to think about the characteristic of the community or society in your area, because one is different from another. I think that is my presentation, two presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you so much to our distinguished speaker, Dr. Ida Fajar Priyanto, for sharing his valuable insights and expertise with us today. I hope you all enjoyed the session and gained benefit from it. Dear participants, now I will open a Q&A session. Please share your question in the chat box so that I can read it to Dr. Ida.
Pak Ida, boleh kita ambil satu atau dua soalan? Since I understand you need to catch up your flight. Satu soalan saja from you guys. Anyone?
Okay, Dr. Ida, the question is, how do information professionals distinguish between reliable and unreliable information on social media?
Right. Okay. First is we have to think before thinking about reliable or unreliable. You have to think about relevancy. So whether the information is relevant for you or not, and that is also important in this case. And then to think about reliability, we have to discuss about the source of information. For example, who posts the information in the social media, and then whether this has been changed or not, so we have to see whether this is disinformation or malinformation. That is also important in this case, but the source is also important. When we get information from unknown source, and whether this is to deceive, whether this is true information or not, that is reliability is very important in this case. So who actually posts the information? What is his expertise, and as well, the expertise of the author of the information, and then whether the sources are true or not, whether they also include the source, whether this is the finding, if this is finding, what is the research, and so on. So there are actually lines of steps, to think about the reliability of the information. But most of all is the relevance of the information, whether the information is actually current or not, especially in the medical school, medical information, for example. If the information is too old, for example, is outdated, so that is not reliable, for example. But for historians, for example, timeliness is important. Historians prefer the old information, the original information in the old days, but medical science prefer the new information, not the oldest information. So we have different types of information required by who needs the information. So reliability also depends on the timeliness as well, So that is for the point that we have to consider. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ida. That's the end of our Q&A session. Once again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Ida Fajar Priyanto for the sharing today. Now, would all participants gather in the front of the screen here